Make a life for myself. 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 Make a life for myself.
Ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls from all over the world, my name is Brandon, aka Rags to Riches. We're going to put our disclaimer at the beginning of the stream instead of the end.
Rags to riches. Do not like, comment, or subscribe.
Let's take a look at chat here. Hex Hodls. This better be a quick one. That's what she said. Or did she? Hex Force 1. I think she said that was quick. Hex Force 1. What's up, Rags? Sam, I am. Hey, Forrest Gump wave. That's that cheesy hand. And okay, I got it. What's good, everyone? My online ghost. What's happening? Facing reality. Boom. What's up, dude? Marcus, what's up, man? How's it going? Red Squirrel, oi, oi, unhexable testing. 1, 2, 3. Finally, let's go. Crypto heartbeat in la casa. Bueno, bueno, Nate. Pulsey's dumping the market. Damn it, Pulsey. I know, man. Acabinaciated, dude. Burn me up, Ginger. Beam me up. Oh, I can't see. That looked like an R and an N, but it was actually an M. Eyesight gone. Beam me up, Ginger. All right, let's check. Footsteps, Mudhog in the house, Pulse Pot. Hey, fam, Charity Dunning. Z. All right, guys. Woohoo! How do you guys feel, man? How does everybody feel? Is everybody freaking out right now? What's the deal here? We've gone through quite a bit. We have gone through quite a bit here over the past 3 or 4 days, really. All right. A little bit wild here. SEC comes out, an outright attack on Coinbase, an outright attack on Binance. Okay. Did we not expect this? What's the deal here? Did we expect it? Guys, I hate to say it, but nothing here surprises me whatsoever. Nothing here surprises me. I was not taken by surprise with all of this news. I was not taken by surprise. Now, you might say, well, Brandon, how in the world can you not be taken by surprise with all this? How is that possible? Guys, we've known what they were going to do for a very long time now. We've known. We've seen the pattern of SEC enforcement action against the crypto industry. And we also knew how it was going to happen. We knew that there was going to be an attack on stable coins. We knew that they were going to dry up and strangle the liquidity in the markets by attacking these crypto-friendly banks. And we knew they were going to come after the centralized exchanges. Why? That's because most of crypto trading has to do with the people that use centralized exchanges because they don't know any better. A lot of this wreckage, a lot of this carnage, this murder scene that has developed over the past 13, 14 years here in crypto has been due to centralized entities. And we have strayed far, far from what crypto was intended originally to mean. You put billions and billions and billions of dollars in the pockets of Coinbase. You've put billions and billions and billions of dollars in the pockets of Binance, okay? Now, I'm going to say this too, and it would be disingenuous for me not to say this. Those two companies have done an enormous amount for cryptocurrency. Now the question then becomes, at what cost? At what cost have they created these issues? At what cost? Have they served us at what cost? These are all questions we need to figure out here. All right. Now, here's the next thing that we need to talk about. We need to talk about what's going to happen moving forward. How many times on this stream have you guys heard us say, and really, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Crypto Heartbeat for this idea. When all of these centralized exchanges dry up, where are people going to go to chase yield? Where are they going to go? They're going to go to decentralized finance, folks. You notice that the SEC isn't outright blatantly attacking Uniswap yet. There is an attack vector there. And the attack vector is the fact that Uniswap is actually backed by a company and a foundation. So there's a legal entity for them to attack. There's a legal entity for the SEC to try to push Uniswap into compliance. But for the most part, decentralized finance is being attacked by means of what? By means of centralized exchanges. What the United States government is doing, really what the SEC is doing, and I have to be careful about saying United States government overall. I certainly believe, I don't have all the answers here, but I know where there's smoke, there's fire. I certainly believe that I think that traditional finance is involved in this attack on cryptocurrency. I truly believe that. I also believe that those motives and those initiatives and those wants and needs are also intermingled and intertwined with the wants and needs of politicians and the wants and needs of ideologies. I think that we are seeing a cross-section of a lot of wants and needs coming together to try to destroy cryptocurrency. But I'll tell you this too, folks. Guys, we knew this was coming for a long time. We've been waiting and waiting and waiting. Why? Because this is such a disruptive force. We are growing larger and larger. And the amount of disruption that is occurring can no longer just kind of like not be looked at. I mean, they have to accept this reality now. The cryptocurrency is here. It's a major force. It's not going away. They can do everything that they can to try to stop it. I just don't think it's going to be stopped, folks. I'm just going to tell you that right now. You've got a bunch of fearful influencers on, and I'm not talking about necessarily the people that we know here. And I know some people are afraid, but I'm talking about the folks that really represent a large swath of the general crypto public. The really, really big channels, they're fear-mongering. They're being very, very afraid. And I don't think it's called for. I don't think crypto is going away. I don't think that the inertia and the momentum that is being built up and has been built up over the past 13 years just vaporizes and evaporates. I think it moves. I think it shifts. I think it adapts. And I see more money going where? Into decentralized finance. Okay? Let's talk about the timeline. I need to remind you of the timeline because, guys, this didn't come out of nowhere. December 22nd, 2020, SEC sues Ripple, accusing it of conducting an unregistered 1.3 billion securities offering. Okay, so that action marks the start of the SEC taking the gloves off when it comes to cryptocurrencies. Also, 23, 22, 21, that was just before Gary Gensler popped in. August 9th, 2021, the SEC charges crypto exchange Poloniex for operating an unregistered digital exchange. Without admitting or denying the charges, the exchange agrees to pay $10 million to settle the case. Now, what are they doing? They're basically drawing a line in the sand, okay? And they're saying, all right, Poloniex, all that money that you made off of trading these tokens, we're gonna fine you for it. And as long as you don't do that in the future moving forward, you're not going to have a fight with us. You're not going to have a problem with us, all right? But if you decide to fight us, and all of these tokens that you are allowing to be exchanged, all of these tokens we recommend and we suggest and we say that they're securities. And if you want to continue to trade those, you have to go to war with the SEC. Folks, what's the problem with going to war with the SEC? It's the United States government. There's unlimited money. Did you see how much money that the SEC asked for this next upcoming budget? A bump of $4 billion, folks. Why? You know what that $4 billion is? That's not only manpower, but that's also legal. Okay? That's the ability to find a small exchange and drain them absolutely dry. That's what that is. It's an infinite fight. It's not a fight that these small guys can win because they don't have the money. They can't just print it like the United States government does. And the SEC knows that. So they started with some of the small guys. And these are just the bigger ones that you might recognize. There's a lot more than this. September 1st, 2021, the regulator charges the people behind crypto lender BitConnect for allegedly defrauding retail investors out of $2 billion through a high-yield investment program, a type of Ponzi. February 14th, 2022, BlockFi. Everybody remember BlockFi? Raise your hands if you remember BlockFi. Everybody remembers. BlockFi agrees to pay $100 million for offering an unregistered lending product. The exchange later files for bankruptcy in November after having been swept up in the FTX collapse. March 8th, 2022, the SEC slams siblings John and Tina Barksdale with charges accusing them of defrauding thousands of retail investors of more than $124 million via Ormeus coin. July 21st, 2022, the SEC charges former Coinbase manager Eisen Wahi and two others in a $1.1 million inside trading ring. So guys, listen, the focus is on crypto now, all right? The focus is on crypto. I always say this, if you're in the middle of the woods, okay, by yourself, in the middle of the night, you don't have anything to protect yourself, all right? You're probably not going to go out there in the middle of the woods. And let's say it's like Vancouver Island or something. All right, grizzlies everywhere. You're not going to start screaming like an injured animal because you don't want people to know you're there. All right, you don't want animals to know you're there. You're not going to raise a stink, okay? But guess what? It's gotten to the point now where crypto is in the middle of this forest and it's gotten so big it can't be ignored. It's so loud it can't be ignored anymore. So what's that do? It paints a target. And we see these actions ramping up and taking place. August 1st, 2022, the markets watchdog charges 11 individuals linked to smart contract company Forsage of running a $300 million Ponzi. September 30th, 2022, the SEC accuses Bermuda-based Arbitrate and Canada-based Crypto Botniks, as well as their principals, of creating and running an alleged gold-backed pump and dump scheme called Dignity. October 3rd, 2022, SEC hits Kim Kardashian with $1.26 million in penalties for promoting securities without disclosing personal holdings. This case is a reminder that when celebrities or influencers endorse investment opportunities, including crypto asset securities, it doesn't mean that those investment products are right for all investors, says SEC Chair Gary Gensler. December 13th, 2022, weeks after the implosion of FTX, the SEC charges the disgraced founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, with orchestrating a scheme to defraud equity investors through the collapse of the crypto exchange. The market watchdogs also announced that it is investigating if he has also violated other securities laws. Wow. So the SEC, all right, so I could say what everybody else is saying. I could say, well, you're just screwing over all these little small projects, but you sure didn't catch FTX. You didn't catch FTX. Well, you got to be very, very careful about this, guys. There is a massive amount of groupthink out there. Now, Coinbase, for example, Coinbase just got charged like 12 or 13, sued them for 12 or 13 charges here. One of the arguments is that the SEC is responsible. They stamped off on them being able to be a publicly traded company. I will say this, guys, to be fair, the whole process of the SEC basically saying they're good to go, you know what that actually is? All the SEC is saying is that they have the proper paperwork. There's actually a disclosure on that paperwork packet that Coinbase has to do to be listed publicly as a publicly traded company. There's a disclosure and a disclaimer and a caveat that says the SEC in no way endorses the viability of this product. All right. So we got to be honest. We got to be fair about this. Now, why do I even bring this up? It's because the unfortunate thing here is Coinbase is going to try to go to war with SEC. And one of the legal arguments that it's purported that they're going to use is the fact that, hey, you guys stamped off on us to be able to be a publicly traded company. Well, you can't go to war with that argument, right? Because that paperwork says it doesn't matter. The SEC is not there to determine whether or not it's a viable product. It was just there to make sure they had their paperwork in order. That's their stamp. So we got to think about that. All right, let's keep going here. December 21st, 2022, the SEC charges former Alameda Research CEO Carolyn Ellison. So this is still FTX fallout. January 4th, 2023, the SEC charges the founder of CoinDeal and 7 others linked to a crypto scheme for allegedly defrauding 10,000 people over 45 mil. Okay. January 12th, 2023, the securities watchdog slams crypto lender Genesis. So we've got Poloniex, we've got BlockFi, we've got Genesis. They slammed Genesis with charges alleging that they offered and sold unregistered securities to retail investors through Gemini Earn crypto asset lending program. Genesis files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy days later. January 19th, 2023, crypto lender Nexo agrees to pay $45 million and cease operations in the U.S. of its earned interest product after the SEC accused it of offering an unregistered crypto lending product. Guys, the writing has been on the wall. They have targeted every single mid-level, mid-range exchange, and they kept working their way up. All the while, they're drying up liquidity, okay? If you don't think that the SEC and Gary Gensler is working in conjunction with FDIC and the Treasury Department, you're out of your damn mind. Okay, these were coordinated attacks, even when some of these banks didn't need to be taken over. They took those banks over anyway because they were crypto friendly. Right? They did not want people being able to buy up these cheap assets to keep the markets alive. So they dried up the liquidity. They found the spigots and they turned the hose off. All right. It's important to know there. Okay, so here we go. Nexo agrees to pay $45 million in a cease in operations in the U.S. of its earned interest protocol after SEC accuses it of offering an unregistered crypto lending product. Another one. All right, we're getting bigger now. Bigger fish to fry here. The SEC ordered Kraken to discontinue its U.S.-based staking service. The service enabled investors to transfer crypto assets to the Kraken for staking in exchange for advertised annual investment return as much as 21%. The crypto exchange settled the charges by ceasing operations. They're kicking them out, guys. Centralized exchanges, one by one, gone. Started from the bottom, now they're here. And I guess that kind of makes sense in a way, right? If you start from the bottom and you kill all the little fish, right? There's nobody to buy up the crypto and buy up the markets when the big fish go away, except for one group of people, the DeFi folks, but we'll get into that. February 13th, 2023. Ooh, we're getting big now. Stablecoin issuer Praxos discloses receiving an SEC notice alleging that the stablecoin Binance USD or BUSD is a security. The regulator ordered Paxos to stop minting the token. Paxos has responded by saying that it will end its relationship with the major exchange Binance and stop minting BUSD stablecoin. In an effort to calm investors, Binance CEO CZ later took to Twitter to said that the funds are safe. All right, folks, here's what we said. All right, we said this 2 years ago. I'm going to do a montage of me saying this. And it's not about me, okay? This was the strategy that we thought that the SEC was going to use. A lot of folks in crypto, me included. They were going to dry up centralized exchanges and they were going to dry up stable coins. And if you can dry up centralized exchanges and dry up stable coins, you can also work to dry up DeFi as well. I don't think that that's the target and the aim right now currently, though. Now, February, March timeframe, here in the last 90 days, we've had some very, very significant happenings. Some very, very significant happenings, okay? So the SEC sues Binance and the SEC sues Coinbase, right? Binance and Coinbase, Binance certainly has enough money to fight the SEC. What's the issue? The issue is that it's going to be drawn out over a very, very long period of time. What's interesting in all of this is that the SEC would do this knowing that there's a potential that they would not win. Well, why do you say that, Rags? Look at Ripple. Is that an open and shut case like the SEC thought it might be? No, it's not. It's not by any stretch of the imagination. So I think, in my estimation, this entire play is to scare investors out of this space. It's to scare people out of this space, right? They come down hard on Binance. They come down hard on about 19 other DeFi products or products that have been traded on centralized exchanges. So what happens in the Telegram groups of those products that are tanking every single day? 5%, 10%, 15%, 20, 30, 50, 100%, 99%, not 100. Well, rug pulls. What happens? These people start turning on each other. People in this chat start turning on each other. Crypto Twitter gets blown up. People start fighting. People start punching. Right? It's all a ploy to get people to turn away from cryptocurrency, to destroy this, to force them, quote unquote, into compliance. Here's a question that I would ask you. Why do you think that the SEC is using regulation instead of collaboration? There's two ways to do this. You can push the entire industry into compliance through enforcement, or you can push the entire industry into compliance by collaborating with the major players and saying, hey guys, what do you think would be best here? How can we collaborate? How can we create a system of rules that's fair for everybody to get some sort of framework in place, right? They don't want to do that. They don't want collaboration. Why would they not want to go that route? In fact, that route is probably the least expensive way to do it. Why would they not want to go that route? That route has the least amount of friction. Why would they not want to go that route? Guys, because it's not about creating a framework for cryptocurrency. It's just not. Okay? What it's about is control. What it's about is preserving the status quo. What it's about is preserving the traditional financial system. Okay, this crypto experience in this industry represents a massive existential threat to these old heads that have been hanging out here getting that U.S. government inflation for the past 100 years, and this scares the hell out of them. It does. Make no mistake, guys. They're going to scare you out of this. The people that are going to be in there to pick up the pieces are the industry leaders. That's how they finally corner the market. Retail trading, man, as compared to holdings of, I'd say, institutional, it's not going to be anything like it was in the past after all of this. But there is hope. There is hope, folks. We're going to talk about that hope here in a minute. Let me check chat here, see if you guys have anything smart to say. Typically, you don't. All right. Footstep says you only lose if you hit sell. Otherwise, you have the same amount of coins. Loving these dips. FTX 2.0, really? We need to talk about the original narratives of Hex PLS. There is no onboarding at the moment. Where are you guys? Let's freaking go. Yep. Controlling on-ramps and off-ramps controls DeFi. Can we use Coinbase to bring in dry powder? Yes, you can. People just look at Gary Gensler's resume. Also, don't forget the Congress Finance Committee is not pro-Gary. Nope, nothing smart to say over here. Thank you, Kinetics. That is nice to have you in chat, my man. All right, so what we're going to do, these are some pretty influential folks. Now, I asked you the question. I was talking about collaboration versus enforcement. There's two ways to get to this, to what we want. They want to destroy crypto. Okay, that's just the bottom line. They want to destroy crypto. There might be a variety of reasons that are said publicly, but privately, you got folks like Senator Warren. For some reason, she's quiet right now. Well, she certainly set the stage leading up to this, didn't she? And she'll probably chime in pretty soon. I assure you, here in the next couple of weeks, she's just going to praise Gary Gensler. She'll be like, "Hoorah, hoorah, Gary Gensler, next Treasury Secretary. Here we go." But check this out. If they went the congressional route, if they used Congress to try to create a framework, they would not get the result that they desire, because the Congress represents the people, and people do want cryptocurrency. This is no longer, just a bunch of prepubescent boys with 3 facial hairs that are, using this to buy, MDMA off the black market. That's not what this is anymore, folks. This is major. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars are being invested and have been invested over the past 5 to 10 years here. This is no joke. And as the U.S. pushes all of these cryptocurrency lovers out and these companies out, it represents massive opportunity for other parts of the world, as we're seeing as well. But the reason that they're not using Congress is because they would not be able to destroy as quickly as they could by using their regulatory powers as a sub-agency in the SEC. So that's why they decided not to go that route. They would not be able to get this far. All right, let's go here. This is Representative Tom Emmer. I think he's the House GOP whip. And he's talking about Gary Gensler here. All right. We're going to lead up to a pretty interesting story here. So let's share this and go.
Talk about Gary Gensler at the SEC. He's a Warren disciple. This guy, in my mind, is a bad faith regulator. He's been blindly spraying the crypto community with enforcement actions while completely missing the true bad actors. He says he's got an open door, Laura. But a company like Coinbase, right, which accessed that open door and started working with Gary Gensler's SEC. By the way, Coinbase, I would argue, is one of the most regulatory compliant crypto companies out there. Well, guess what? Gary Gensler might have an open door, but it is an enter at your own risk door, because what he does is, despite several meetings over several months, Gary Gensler's SEC refused to provide feedback on a product. It was called the Earn product that Coinbase was looking to list. And
all right, we're collecting clues right now. We're trying to see what this guy's all about. We're trying to see what the sentiment is. Okay, so that's a major player in Congress, and he's coming down pretty hard on Gary Gensler. Now you're going to understand why. They know that there are major players in Congress that, hey guys, bottom line is, these congressional people, they've got holdings in crypto too, okay? I want you to remember that. They've got holdings in crypto too. Money talks. That is one aspect of this that's moving this in this direction. Why are people pushing back? Well, there is greed. You have to be stupid not to be able to recognize that. All right, let's go.
Asset space don't have a choice, that they have to comply with the rules. But once again, Congress has never given you a framework for regulating digital assets. Where are you pulling that one from?
With all respect, sir, we disagree on this.
Oh, I can see we disagree a lot, Chairman, because we're not giving you authority. You're just taking it. I think that's part of the issue right now.
With all respect, Congress painted with a...
You see, he's usurping authority. That's what he's doing. He's taking whatever he wants, claiming it for his. That's not the way the system works.
All right, let's keep going here. All right, watch GOP Senator and SEC Chair spar over the definition of Bitcoin. So this was a pretty interesting back and forth exchange too. Let's continue to collect clues and connect the dots here.
Chairman Gensler, in your written statement, you acknowledged, as you have in the past, that there are some tokens that are not securities. And I know your view that whether or not a digital asset is a security is a facts and circumstances analysis. I know your view that the SEC has very broad authority. But you've also made it clear in the past that Bitcoin is not a security. Now, some SEC staff have also previously said that Ethereum is not a security. The SEC's Dow report characterizes Ethereum as decentralized. So here's my question briefly, and without getting deep into the weeds on this, and I acknowledge your belief that most tokens have a large degree of central control, but generally speaking, is it fair to say that a significant factor for you in whether or not a digital asset is a security is whether it is centrally controlled or decentralized?
Well, I look to the Supreme Court that's often written about this, probably close to a dozen times in 50 years, and it's whether the investing public is anticipating profits, and that includes anticipating profits from appreciation as well as from, as you mentioned, rights, based upon a common enterprise, but the efforts of that common enterprise.
Right. So I guess another way to put my question, which you haven't answered, is it possible to have a common enterprise if it's something is decentralized? How could I have a common enterprise? I mean, it doesn't isn't centralization necessary to constitute a common enterprise?
You could have some things that are quite open, but still have, if the public is...
All right, folks, let me help you out a little bit here, okay? So you got to think about the question that the senator asked Mr. Gensler. With regards to the test that they put these through with the Howey test, there has to be essentially a coordinated group of people, typically a company of some sort, that is making the decisions for these cryptocurrencies. So he's trying to say, listen, if there is no company, okay, if this thing is not passing that portion of the Howey test, then how can it actually be a security, right? That's what this is all about.
Is anticipating a profit based upon that common enterprise. So I'm being careful with my words here to be accurate as best I can. The common enterprise, are you relying on a group of individuals? And look, these are not law.
He has not answered the question. I want you guys to go back and listen to this very carefully and listen to his answer. He got stumped, okay? Right now, he's in the weeds, and he's going to try to change the subject. My 5-year-old does this quite a bit.
Some things that are quite open, but still have, if the public is anticipating a profit based upon that common enterprise. So I'm being careful with my words here to be accurate as best I can. The common enterprise, are you relying on a group of individuals? And look, these are not laundromat tokens. There is a group of people that are actually...
You're not answering my question, though. But so let me try it this way. What is it about Bitcoin that causes you to conclude it is not a security?
Well, one is there's no group of individuals in the middle.
Right, it's
there's
decentralized.
No group of individuals in the middle.
Right.
That are basically, and you're not in essence, the investing public's not betting on somebody in the middle or 6 people in the middle.
So you're choosing not to use the term decentralized, but that's what you're describing. It is the decentralized nature of Bitcoin, I think, is really what you're getting at. Here's my point, and I'm going to run out of time here. But there are a lot of projects, as you know, decentralization and centralization occurs on a continuum, really, I think. And you've acknowledged that there are tokens, plural, that are not securities. I think it's because of this centralization that you come to this conclusion. And my point is, it is not reasonable to fail to provide clarity, to provide the definition of exactly where on this continuum you have a sufficient common enterprise that it qualifies as a security and where you don't. You've said Bitcoin doesn't. Some of your colleagues have said Ethereum doesn't. But a reasonable developer who wants to comply with this doesn't know where that line is drawn.
So I think where we might have a difference is there are many factors, and so it's not one spectrum of centralization versus decentralization. What the Supreme Court, and I try to stick to, they're the Supreme Court, and there'll be debates about other laws.
It's crazy that something so important is so subjective. It's crazy that the entire crypto industry falls under the opinion of the Honorable Gary Gensler. That's mind-blowing. And I hold Congress accountable for this too. They can vote to get this out tomorrow, get this guy out tomorrow. And they're allowing this to happen. Here's the funny part. Centralization and decision-making can be really, really good for a long time until you get the wrong guy at the helm. If you have a benevolent guy that's reasonable, probably a philosopher of some sort, they understand history, they understand how to take apart problems and build them back up and just have a good understanding of that, those are the types of folks that you want. I'm not sure if this guy is in the right position right now. And I'm not sure if it's smart to give so much enforcement power to one man. Absolutely insane.
I try to stick to what they say, a common enterprise. I think about a group of individuals in the middle. That developer is in the middle, and the investing public's betting on them, counting on them, even if the token might be on 1,000 computers. That's not what this.
So here's what's interesting too. Okay, we got to think about everything that's happening here. Why was he attacking centralized exchanges? Now, there's a lot of folks in here, and I tend to agree. I think that the centralized exchange path was destined for failure from the beginning. Okay, I believe that. If you're trying to create a new financial system, why are you going to try to mirror the old one? All right, we had something that was working very, very well in Bitcoin for a couple of years, a handful of years. That's gone by the wayside too. But here's the thing. He can subjectively just go out on paper, without any type of court case, without any type of ruling, and he can cite 19 cryptocurrencies that he says that he considers securities with no crypto ruling whatsoever, and then take that statement and that paperwork and then take that to the exchanges and says, hey, you're trading one of these 19, so now we're going to sue you. Is that fair? Is that proper? I wouldn't say so. Would not say so, but this also illuminates another point that I want to make, in that if he can just willy-nilly and subjectively throw down some tokens on a piece of paper that he considers, without any official ruling, to be a cryptocurrency, and he can take that, he can weaponize that and bring down any company out there. And this is evidence in my mind that it's not about helping build the regulatory framework for cryptocurrency. Instead, I think that he hates what's happening in cryptocurrency. I think that he absolutely hates it. And I think there are people in his ear chirping. Okay. I think that he might have been shut down by the cryptocurrency industry in the past as a civilian, as a regular dude. You know, he was once a chair at Goldman Sachs. He tried to get into the cryptocurrency industry. There are reports that he was actually turned down for some jobs at Binance. Is he sore about that? Now, I'm not going to make my entire thesis around that argument because that's pure and utter speculation. But you guys got to remember, this is just a man. Okay? What is his motivation? Is his motivation protecting you guys? No. He might lie and tell himself that, but the motivation is power. The motivation is control. The motivation is keeping the status quo, in my opinion. +1 in chat if you agree.
Supreme Court's looking at. It's not about the token being on 1,000 computers. It's just like a group of developers in the middle.
But if there is nobody controlling it in the middle, that's what we call decentralized, and that does happen. As you know, of course, the Howey test requires all 4 of the tests to be met in order for something to be defined as a security. Let me move on to another related issue, which is, as I said in my opening statement, I don't think that the SEC has provided a crypto-specific roadmap to the registration of crypto intermediaries. One example of the problem that arises is the SEC's customer protection rule was written in 1972 and doesn't address how a broker-dealer should hold a customer's blockchain private keys, for instance. Now, I know the SEC claims to have provided relief, but the relief has very onerous contingencies. It's time-limited, and my understanding is few, if any, broker-dealers have been able to comply. So I know you've said many times you want to have the industry, the intermediaries, come in and have a conversation with the SEC about this. But wouldn't it be better if the SEC came out and laid out how you would apply the rules and regulations to these novel devices?
So we're in conversations with a number of these intermediaries across the exchange, the lending, the broker-dealer, the custody space. As I've said a year ago, in the lending space, people should make no mistake. And I think it sounds like, Senator, you and I might even agree that the lending platforms are under the securities laws.
Right.
But in the exchange space and the broker-dealer space, I accept that people have not come in and used what was put in place under Chair Clayton, that broker-dealer custody rule that you mentioned. And so I've said to staff, let's use everything in our regulatory toolkit, whether it's exemptive orders and others, to help facilitate and get this industry. People will not have trust in this space unless it comes into investor protection.
So I'm out of time, Mr. Chairman. So
It's interesting though, right? I mean, people won't have trust in this space unless it comes under, some type of regulatory clarity. Just look at traditional business, guys. Are there businesses that that you probably shouldn't do business with because you could get pretty screwed, right? Are there those out there? Do you have payday lending platforms or businesses that charge craziness like 1,000 APY per year in some parts of the country, and they prey on people? Yeah. Are they still in business? Yes, they're still in business. Well, why? It's because it's personal choice. People know, guys, they want to quote unquote protect you. Okay. They want to protect you, but at the same time, they don't want you to be able to make any decisions for yourself either. If you're going to play with fire, you're going to get burned. If you're dabbling in the meme coin dark arts, you're going to get wrecked. And just about everybody in this chat, including me, has been wrecked by meme coins. All right. We know that. We're able to use our brains. We're able to understand these things, right? If you continue to lose more and more and more money, what's going to happen? Maybe you're going to learn your lesson. People learn lessons in life, right? We are not modeling the traditional financial system. That's not what we want to do here with crypto. That is not the case. You can't apply it. That's not the point. If he understood Bitcoin, why is Bitcoin not a security? Well, I would encourage him to read the Bitcoin white paper and really understand it, which of course he does. He does understand that, but that's not going to make a difference because it's not about ushering in a financial revolution. Okay, that makes the playing field more level for everybody. That's not what it's about. Okay, it's about preserving the status quo.
I would just say my concern is that the approach you're taking with these one-off discussions, if it if it did even result in an opportunity to comply, it'd be this idiosyncratic exemptive order negotiated with a single company, and that's not a good way to pass rules. It ought to be through the APA and a very public process.
If the chair would forgive me, I think we've been very clear through 70 or 80 actions, starting with that Dow order, the Munchie order, and many others, and they were full votes of the commission, they're not just staff. Secondly, I just look at other times in history, the SEC and the asset-backed securities market took 10 or 11 years where they did these, as you would say, exemptive orders or relief to individual issuers, and did a rule at the end of that 10 or 11 years.
All right. We've gotten into that here. All right, let me check and see. I think I've got about one more here. I want you guys to listen to this. This is actually the same guy that we heard earlier, and then we're gonna weigh in with Brian Armstrong. We're 45 minutes in. We're talking some good stuff. We're providing some good information, and I'm going to give you my opinion on all this here shortly. So here we go.
In history is probably FTX at $9 billion. Were you the chairman of the SEC when FTX collapsed?
Yes,
And how many times did you meet with FTX prior to their collapse?
I think my public record shows 2.
You met it with FTX at least twice. And arguably, the second biggest crypto failure in history was Terra Luna. Who was the chairman of the SEC when Terra Luna collapsed, sir?
We had brought...
You were, sir, reclaiming my time. You were. Does it concern you that your approach to the digital asset industry is actually driving this industry out of the United States?
We're trying to drive it to compliance, and if they're not complying with the laws...
You say the crypto market is rife with non-compliance. However, existing SEC rules make no sense for blockchain-based companies, and following them would actually kill these businesses. Your regulatory style lacks flexibility and nuance, and as a result, you've been an incompetent cop on the beat, doing nothing to protect everyday America. The biggest...
Oof, that's pretty brutal, man. That feels fun. All right. Let's talk to Brian Armstrong here, guys. Again, if you're living under a rock and you didn't know, the SEC came after Coinbase and Binance for different reasons, but essentially they came after Coinbase for trading unregistered securities. And then they essentially came after Binance for doing a lot of stuff. Commingling funds, all sorts of things, but we'll get into that. Here's Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase. I appreciate his shiny bald head. I really do. Brian Armstrong, guys. Without further ado,
is in a battle with regulators. The SEC sued his company, saying Coinbase broke the rules by listing tokens that the regulator alleges are subject to securities laws. He sat down with the Journal to discuss the situation. This doesn't seem like one where there's a lot of dispute about the facts. You're trading cryptocurrencies on Coinbase. The question really is, are you breaking the law? And is what you are trading a security? What's your interpretation of the law?
Basically, we're in this environment of regulation by enforcement. I don't feel like there's a clear rule book. The only sort of high-level statements they've made is that everything other than Bitcoin is a security, which that's just not what it says in the law. And by the way, that would also kind of mean like the end of the crypto industry in the U.S. if that was actually what happened. And so we have to go to court to challenge that. We're proud to do it for the industry and for America.
But this has been something that has been hanging over the industry and Coinbase for a while. You, in your S-1, when you filed to go public, put down as a risk, the SEC may decide that the stuff that we are trading is in fact a security, but you pushed ahead anyway and built a business and grew that business and added more tokens and added more assets. Tell us why you did that.
Well, there are certainly crypto securities out there. In fact, Coinbase has reviewed well over 1,000 different assets. 90% of them we've rejected. The 10% or less of assets that we've reviewed that we did decide to list, we feel that those are crypto commodities. And so they don't need to be registered and traded with under an SEC license.
So the question of what is a security, to zoom way out, you've got like baseball cards at one end. Mm-hmm. You've got Apple stock on the other end, right? Baseball cards, clearly not a security. We trade baseball cards. They have value, but nobody thinks that like a 1987 Topps Darryl Strawberry is a security. Mm-hmm. Apple stock, clearly a security. Big gap between those things. Mm-hmm. And the SEC is making arguments that a bunch of things that you trade on Coinbase are more over here, closer to Apple. How do you think about that distinction?
There is this thing called the Howey test, right? Which is the definition of a security, and it kind of says, is there an investment of money in a common enterprise with an expectation of profit based on the effort of others. So it has those kind of 4 prongs. The important thing to know is that all 4 of those things have to be true, right? So there's various ways that, you could imagine.
Did you guys hear that? You want to fail the Howey test. Okay, that's what he said. This is a huge misconception. I got people DMing me about this and hit me up in chat, guys. You want to fail the Howey test, all right? Now, how do you fail the Howey test, okay? One of the 4 legs, one of the 4 questions that is asked of you, okay? If you are not compliant with one of those 4 questions, or not compliant, that's the wrong word. If you don't pass one of the 4 questions that's asked, you fail the Howey test, and that's what you want to do. All 4 of those legs have to be there, all right? So that's what he's talking about here. 3 can be there. You can have X, you can have Y, but if you don't have Z, you're not a security. Very important to know.
A crypto asset would not be a security, right? If it's sufficiently decentralized, there's no common enterprise, right? If there's some specific utility around it, it's not just for the purpose of the value of going up, right? And so what we need in the United States at this point is regulatory clarity.
So you looked at thousands or 1,000 tokens, you listed 250-ish of them, and the SEC has a problem with 13, at least 13, but they highlight 13. So, But the issue is you have to bat 1,000, right? You can't have any securities. You've got to have all 250 that you trade can't be securities, otherwise.
And how is that fair? How is that fair for Coinbase if there is no ruling on it? Okay, suddenly, all of a sudden, like I've said this before, you put a stop sign at an intersection, okay? And then you start issuing tickets going 6 months back before the stop sign existed, issuing tickets to people for running a stop sign. It's kind of what's happening right here, okay? You're holding these people accountable for actions that took place a long time ago. And it's subjective. It hasn't gone through a process. It's just Gary Gensler saying these 13 are securities. It's absolute lunacy, dude. It's absolute craziness. Absolute craziness. And I'm not even here to argue how crazy it is because we know it is, because that's not the issue. I don't want to spend time on that. Okay, we can say, oh, this isn't fair, but you got to get to the heart of the matter. You got to get to the reason. I've not heard anybody get to the reason. Okay, this is an absolute attack on the free market. Okay, this is an absolute attack on innovation. And the reason the United States has been the absolute bastion of technology for so many years, really, since the dot-com era and prior, it's because we've had the incredible opportunity to take advantage of the forces of the free market like no other place has. And not only that, we've had people, we've had capital to be able to invest in these ideas. And what you see as government centralizes, they see these outside entities, they see these kind of little outside stirrings like the crypto industry popping up, and it causes issues in their centralized planning. So they got to exit out. They got to delete it. So I think the whole power structure that I talk about has a lot to do with the existential threat that the cryptocurrency industry presents towards TradFi. Really do.
Otherwise, you're running an unlicensed securities exchange and an unlicensed clearinghouse and an unlicensed broker. So it seems like the odds are kind of not in your favor.
So that's not really how I think of it. Remember, the goal of this lawsuit is to get clarity for the industry, right? And we've actually been formally petitioning the SEC for clarity.
Well, the SEC's goal is to stop you from breaking the law in their view. It's not. I don't think they think that there's a lack of clarity in the industry. I think they think that you're breaking the law.
Well, that may be what they say, but I can assure you there's a huge lack of clarity. But we feel strongly all of the ones that we listed there, since we took a pretty conservative approach, they are commodities.
The SEC says in its complaint that you rushed that process. How do you respond to that?
I feel pretty comfortable about the analysis. The irony of this is that we were continuously asking them during this period, can you give us more clarity? That's how it's supposed to work.
You have taken, I think it's fair to say, a reasonably confrontational approach with the SEC. There's a Twitter thread in which you said there's some sketchy things going on. Do you regret that approach?
Well, I wouldn't say our approach has been confrontational. It is with great, we'd never relished the opportunity or the idea of ending up in litigation with our regulator. In fact, quite the opposite. And by the way, I have a great deal of respect for the people at the SEC, the staff, the commissioners. I think our relationship with the chair has been quite difficult, honestly. But there's a lot of really good people at the SEC, and we've had no issue working with every other regulator out there, both in the U.S. but also internationally.
Why has the relationship with Chair Gensler been difficult?
You know, I don't know. I don't want to speculate on his motives or anything like that. But you know, when he first came into the role, I made an effort to kind of fly out there and go meet with him. I don't know why the schedules wouldn't align. We made several attempts. We eventually did get to meet, but only virtually.
Have you ever had a one-on-one meeting in person with him?
I've never been able to meet with him in person, which is rare.
What is sort of Brian Armstrong's dream regulatory structure for crypto?
Well, so the first one is we just need to get some clarity about the market structure and how, you know, the CFTC and the SEC are both going to regulate this industry. What are the boundaries? I think we also need to just bring in some basic consumer protections. It's actually not rocket science. This is just applying some of these really basic common sense ideas to the industry. And then once we have that legislation in place, I think we'll start to see some of the entrepreneurs who've left the US come back and say, okay, I feel that we're not just going to be attacked randomly or have incredibly high legal bills at any given moment. And we can actually build a business here in the US again.
All right. What do you guys think here, man? What do you guys think? It seems pretty simple on the surface. They've been doing business for a long time, right? Again, these 13 that were named in this paper, those 13, they haven't been sued. So you know, the SEC just willy-nilly brings it out. It's out of control. It's crazy. But again, doesn't matter. Brian knows this. Here's what Brian knows. Brian and Coinbase are an impediment to the SEC in the United States government and certain actors in the United States government. I do believe there are divisions here. I think there is a division of people that hate the free market. I think there is a division of people, I think primarily the socialists, and primarily, guys, if you haven't heard about this, gosh, we have said this so many times on this show. The Binance people, the people that came from Silicon Valley, the people that got all the political money, that donated to the Democrat Party, that were just playing ball and scratching their back, this and that. These are the people that are pushing Bitcoin so hard now. They want to push DeFi, decentralized finance, out of the way. It's Bitcoin or bust. That's all they say. Even though Bitcoin in many, many ways, in just about every single way, compared to any new modern L1 that comes out, or really has come out really in the past, like probably 7 years, Bitcoin is way behind from a technological aspect, okay? And there's so many other huge benefits and advantages that DeFi presents. But you've got these people that are lobbying Congress to say that everything is a security. And I give props to Charles Hoskinson because he went to Capitol Hill and he was talking to these staffers and he was saying these lobbyists, these big players in crypto industry, specifically Bitcoiners, are going behind the industry's back to help create legislation that drives a stake into the heart of proof of stake systems. Okay, so man, all of this is so connected. I see it clearly in my head. It's difficult for me to communicate it properly to you guys without sounding like a nut job. But as I always say, you're gonna have to put some trust in me. Don't doubt me here, guys. These people are freaking crazy, man. These people are crazy. Let's get into the next thing here. We got a little bit of hope. All right, House Republicans. This is breaking news, actually. House Republicans introduced bill to remove SEC Chair Gary Gensler and restructure the agency. This just happened today. The bill would add a 6th commissioner and prevent any political party from having more than 3 seats on the body. All right, this is pretty interesting here right now, okay? So the way this works, you have one head honcho at the agency. That's the chair. That's Chair Gensler. And he basically manages a bunch of his subordinates, okay? So he's the pinnacle. He's the top. He's where the buck stops. Well, what's the problem with this? Again, if you don't have a benevolent ruler, You're going to run into issues when they have so much power. All right. And it might not be benevolence. In many cases in company structures, you are promoted to your highest level of incompetence. I think this might be his highest level of incompetence. I think he excelled in some of his other jobs, but I think that he is just lacking wisdom in a huge way here. Okay. So the way that they want to restructure this is they're going to have one, it's like a board member, and then they're going to have like 7 commissioners, okay, that all have equal power in voting. And out of those 7, they can be appointed by administrations. So what that does is kind of, it's going to slow down the ability for the SEC to execute on things because they're going to have to get buy-in and majority votes. But at the same time, that's one of the things that makes America so great. You look at a government that the decision is made by one person. They can move a lot faster. They can get things done quicker, but it's a lot of times it's very messy because it hasn't gone through the process of being, kind of shelled out and kind of understood. So I think that would definitely be a net positive if we could get this through. Now, I've been trying to find some feedback from some other Congress people to see if this bill actually has any support. I don't know if it does, but I will say it got a whole hell of a lot of shares. A pair of House Republicans introduced a bill to remove the Securities and Exchange Chairman from his post. Representative Warren Davidson, Republican Ohio, and House Majority Whip Tom Emmer, Republican Minnesota, introduced the SEC Stabilization Act that would restructure the SEC and remove Gary Gensler from his post. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I got to take a lot of credit here, folks. I'm just telling you. Here's a post, June 6th, at Warren Davidson from your boy Rags to Riches. You promised us that you would push to restructure the SEC and pivot to remove Gary Gensler. Are you flapping your gums? Are you going to stand in the gap for us? Or are you going to watch the industry die on the vine at the hands of big government? Sincerely, the world. And I put his contact information in there. The one thing I would say, folks, they always get a lot of heat from people when there's things that people don't agree with. Maybe you could call his office and say, thank you so much. Maybe you could ask him. Maybe you could call him up and talk to his staffers and say, guys, thank you for putting this in there. Somebody's sticking up for us. Okay. Now the House Majority Whip is the other guy that co-sponsored the bill. All right. So we got Tom Emmer and Warren Davidson. U.S. capital markets must be protected from a tyrannical chairman, including the current one. That's why I'm introducing legislation to fix the ongoing abuse of power and ensure protection, that it's in the best interest of the market for years to come. It's time for real reform and to fire Gary Gensler as the chair of the SEC, ladies and gentlemen. How cool would that be? How cool would that be, man? You want to talk about a bull market? Bro. Now, don't get any ideas. I know who do we got in here? Max Statico and Degen Dougie, and don't go assassinating Gary Gensler here. I know you want a bull market, but let's not kill the guy. All right. Max Statico, hey Rags, I'm late. Good to see you. Yeah, good to see you too, man. Psych. All right. So what do we have next here? All right. I'm going to go, and I think this is the part we talk about stable coins. So we've made the case time and time again that the vectors of attack are going to be centralized exchanges. The vectors of attack are also they're going to be taking over stable coins, okay? And they're also going to make the way for a new generation of exchanges and a new generation of stable coins. I talked about this last week. You had the company Promethean. Within an extremely short amount of time, it got green-lighted to offer crypto as a security through the SEC. Okay? There are also a couple of exchanges in Boston that will be offering crypto as securities. Okay, they've gone through the regulatory process. They got streamlined through. They got shot through really fast. I tend to think that they got pushed through so quickly because the SEC was getting so much heat from the industry because they did not move quickly on getting this registration moved through. Okay, so I think that they wanted to say, all right, we pushed these guys through. Now we can say, hey, look, here they are. They did it the right way. They're good to go. I did a stream where we looked at the CEO of that company. He was extremely smug. He was kissing the SEC's ass, and I think that he knew something that we didn't know. And I think what's happening is they are rebuilding the cryptocurrency industry via exchanges, okay, also via stablecoins, and the CBDCs that are going to be used are going to be pushed through this new network, this new crypto banking network. And here's the unfortunate part. I did a story a while back. Guys, if you think that you're going to be able, with Gary Gensler in charge, and without major shifts and changes, if you think that the regular person is going to be able to participate in new cryptocurrency projects, you're absolutely crazy. I hate to say it. Okay? You're going to have to be accredited. You're going to have to pass a test. They're going to come up with something. It's one of the things that makes cryptocurrency, I guess, so attractive for people. It's because anybody has access to it. Anybody can play ball. Anybody can get in there. But there are a lot of countries across the world right now that are creating these tests for regular folks to determine whether or not they can even participate in these new projects. And you're going to see a new elite class emerge. Now, this is very interesting too. Guys, you remember what I said? The thing that I really like about Richard Hart is the fact that I don't see this man playing ball with these regulators. I don't see this man pushing any sort of OFAC compliance on Pulse Chain. And guys, this is just playing out perfectly. I don't know how else to say it. The whole world is trying to play ball with these folks. The whole world is trying to play into this idea that cryptocurrency should look a whole lot like traditional finance. And only the people in traditional finance should be the ones that are making the decisions, the collective decisions for all of you guys who are in here right now. What do I think is going to happen, folks? Here's what I think is going to happen. I think that decentralized finance is going to see one of the biggest bull runs that you've ever seen in your entire life. Rags, how could you possibly say that? How could you possibly say that after having this entire stream talking about all the downside and all the FUD and all the horrible things? Guys, wake up. What's happening? Centralized exchanges should not have been around in the first place. Do you guys get that? They shouldn't have been around in the first place. It's a traditional finance system with the middleman, custody of your tokens. Okay? And they're having to play ball with the government. Decentralized finance works. It's evident. It's the only thing that has really survived. Okay? There's no bankrupt Uniswaps. No, there's not. Everything died. Every centralized exchange died. People are going to go to look for yield. When this next bull run occurs, make no mistake, that's what people are going to do. Well, how can you say the SEC is not going to shut down the on-ramps and off-ramps? That's not in the cards right now, guys. The SEC did not issue an injunction. They did not issue an injunction. This is going to be, so what an injunction is basically a court order saying you need to cease the following services that you're providing for people. This is not one of them, folks. This is going to be drug out in court for years and years and years and years. In the meantime, guys, guess what? Eventually, the money printers are going to turn back on. Eventually, what's going to happen? Those interest rates are going to start to pause, then decrease. That maybe happens Wednesday. We'll see. We'll find out. So guys, guess what? If centralized exchanges aren't offering yield-bearing products anymore, there might be a massive opportunity for DeFi. Where are those dollars going to go? Where are those dollars going to go? All these people who wanted Celsius, all these people who wanted this 21% on staking Ethereum, this and that, they're going to start to learn about what things are. In the midst of this, folks, let me tell you this. Massive, massive amounts of blood, massive, massive amounts of FUD. And guess what? I would say on a scale of me being afraid of 1 to 10, I am like a 1 afraid. Search me. Search my soul. Search my eyeballs. Let me know if I'm telling the truth. Folks, I am not afraid of this. I'm not afraid of this at all. I believe that the tidal wave that has been created cannot be stopped. Not even by a U.S. agency, a regulatory agency. Okay? Technology is too diverse now. Blockchain continues to be invested in, okay, by major institutions. Do you think for 1 second that a JP Morgan Chase is going to set up a massive DeFi network starting 5 years ago if they first didn't have a conversation with the governments and have reassurances? Do you think they're going to put all that money into something? The answer is hell no. Now, why? It's because the government and those banks are in bed together. They make decisions together, guys. This whole system is rigged against you. And if you don't believe me, tune into my channel a little bit more, folks. If you don't believe me, tune into my channel a little bit more. This is going to be, I think this is going to be crazy. It's going to be and here's another big part of it. If you just look at the charts, we have corrected, we've been hit, we've been punched more so than we ever have. And guys, things have not gone to zero. This is crazy. The U.S. government clamping down. But guys, this was bound to happen at some point. We are now in it. Be thankful that you have the opportunity to snag some of this stuff as dirt cheap as you will be able to, and potentially for the next 6 months or maybe even more. I've got a very optimistic outlook on this. And I think that even more so, I'm optimistic because this is the way that we've seen it play out. We knew that we were going to have to go to war with the juggernauts. It was going to get to the point where we got so big that they were going to have to acknowledge us. And then they were going to have to try to take us down. We're at this point now. If the United States clamps down, folks, like think about prohibition. The United States clamps down, people are still going to do crypto. You're going to talk about civil disobedience at a mass level. There's going to be services all over the world that are going to pop up to fill this vacuum. Really, really awesome things are going to be built on Pulse Chain to fill this vacuum. On Ethereum to fill this vacuum, really everywhere. And sometimes you got to take a step back, guys, and say, you know, Maxi is what it is. But guys, we're in this fight together. And this should show you, because everybody's freaking chart is down right now. We're in this fight together. Maybe we should be working together a little bit more in educating instead of, hey, I'll tell you this. This was very ironic, okay? This is just a little side take here. I hopped in a Twitter space, man. I hopped in a Twitter space. And I was on my alt account, okay? I try to hop into Twitter spaces now with my alt account because I don't want to get sucked into these conversations. I do just like listening. Everybody always invites me up. I don't want to be invited up. I just want to listen. I remember hopping in Twitter spaces for 2 years and Hexkins absolutely mass murdering people, just getting destroyed. Just getting destroyed, man. And I hopped in one of those spaces, man, and the tables were turned on Hexkins. Hexkins were getting chopped up, chewed up, and spit out, right? And I think that the idea here might be this. We can be firm in our beliefs. We can be firm in our understanding. We can work on our knowledge. I think just the delivery needs to be a little bit different. Let's deliver this a little bit differently. And instead of being hated by everybody, we could be leaders for everybody because we do know this stuff better than anybody else. We really do. Really do. All right. Great commentary tonight. You understand this all rags. Only lawyers. And here's the thing. We don't have enough time, man. I'm not going to do a 2-hour daggone stream. I'll do like an hour. I don't like going over an hour, actually. Back to the Future, Hex Down Under, brr, XRP, XDC, XLM, just staying, yep, love Hex and Texan. Bro, it's the greatest opportunity right now, folks. I'm telling you, you're going to be so pissed. You're going to be so frustrated with yourself. There's people here right now, and this might be a good stream for you. You might be on the edge right now. You're listening to all these demagogues trying to convince you that things are crazy and it's all going to zero. And the only way that you can stay alive is if you just follow me, like my stuff, comment on my stuff, subscribe on my stuff.
Rags to riches. Do not like, comment, or subscribe.
If you go away right now, you're going to regret it. I'm telling you, clip this. Just know it's true. If you're leaving crypto right now, you're going to regret it. Stick to a plan. Uninstall Twitter if you have to, because it's a friggin' dumpster fire out there. And then come back in 2-3 years. Maybe 2-4 years. Who knows? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, my name is Rags to Riches. Let me know in comments if this was probably one of the most thorough streams on what's happening with the SEC, Gary Gensler, Binance, Coinbase, and really the big picture that you've ever seen. +1 in chat. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, my name is Rags Riches. Do not like, comment, or subscribe. I am out.